It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for Season 11 of The Walking Dead. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the official details for Part B or Part 2 of Season 11, which is the final season. These details are, of course, the titles and some of the descriptions of the next 8 episodes. But of course, there is going to be a third part, so these are not the final 8 episodes of the series. These are just the next 8 in a 3-part season. Stay tuned, we'll be right back to break these titles and descriptions down. Alright, as always, before we jump into this, smash that like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. If any of the shows on the left interests you, then you definitely want to subscribe and stick around, because those are the shows that I react to or I cover in depth on the channel. All the links to my social media pages is also down below and in the description, so make sure to follow me in any of those. With that said, let's just dive right in. Now, one thing I do want to mention, which is very important, is that these titles and descriptions give us a pretty good idea what's gonna happen for the first maybe 2 episodes because they have the descriptions. But 11 all the way to 14, they only have the titles and not the descriptions. So we can't really make any sort of real predictions, but I'm just gonna do my best to make some assumptions as far as what might happen just based on the titles alone. Also, there's no titles or descriptions for the final 2 episodes of Part 2, so episode 15 and 16, so it's gonna be difficult to predict what's gonna happen at the end of season 11 part 2, but at the same time, I think the titles and descriptions for the first 2 episodes alone are enough for us to kind of get a sense of what they're doing in this second part. With that said, let's waste no more time and just dive right into these titles and descriptions. Starting off with Season 11 Episode 9, which is the mid-season premiere. Actually, not the mid-season, but you know what I mean. This one's called The Other Way. An interesting title. Now, the description reads, Hellfire rains down on those at Meridian as every fight with the Reapers proves to be a brutal battle. At home in Alexandria, the violent rainstorm rages on as walkers continue to pour in, threatening everyone's safety, including Judith and Gracie. Now, obviously, all of what was said is pretty much the exact same storyline as the previous episode, Season 11, Episode 8. The battle with the Reapers at Meridian is still continuing. Obviously, 11 Part 1 ended with a cliffhanger with the survivors being surrounded by walkers with Leah ordering the Reapers to shoot them all down. So that's gonna continue, and obviously the rainstorm at Alexandria is gonna continue. They even mentioned Judith and Gracie, who were trapped in the basement at Alexandria. So all of that we've seen. There is nothing new here. First, the title, The Other Way. I think it's referring to possibly something to do with Daryl's attempt to get Leah to see that they could go a different way. They could go the other way and not have to make this be a battle. They could work together and stop this nonsense, especially now that Pope is dead. Obviously, that's probably not gonna happen, and their battle is not gonna stop just because Pope is dead, which is a little unrealistic. I mean, Leah really wasn't a type of person or character that would want to continue this nonsense battle, but it seems like she is gonna do that, which is kind of odd. But the next episode, Season 11, Episode 10, is called New Haunts, and the description reads, Weeks have passed since the Alexandrians arrived at the Commonwealth. They adjust to their classifications, their assigned jobs, and the oddity of making new friends. There's a lot going on there. A lot of reveals that you might not even think are reveals. One is that this proves or confirms that the Reapers battle or the war with the Reapers is gonna end in the previous episode. The Reapers are no more at this point, which I think is disappointing and expected because most fans knew that the battle was gonna end, but disappointing because if you think about it, the battle with the Reapers and everything surrounding that story was rushed and insignificant, especially because this is the final season. The other thing this proves is we're gonna have a time jump. So weeks have passed since Alexandrians arrived at Commonwealth. So either they're not gonna show all of the characters going into Commonwealth, or if they're gonna show it, it's gonna be rushed and very brief, or they're gonna go back in time and fill in the gaps throughout the next part of the season. Flashbacks and flash forward scenes. I think either way, this means that they're probably gonna rush the Commonwealth introduction. By introduction, I mean the initial meetup and the initial contact between the survivors and Commonwealth, which was also kind of rushed in the comics, and it appears that they're rushing that even more, which I think is a massive disappointing factor of this part, because everyone was expecting pretty early on to kind of get that story where Commonwealth and the survivors meet up and there's this back and forth between them and there's this kind of attempt to get the other side to trust you and all of that. But it seems like they're gonna skip all of that, or like I said, make it very brief, which I think is very, very underwhelming. So I'm already not looking forward to it, because it seems like they're just gonna brush this Commonwealth story and get to the end of it just so that they can add in their own original story for the end of the series. So I'm already not impressed. But anyway, the next part of the description, they adjust to their classifications, assign jobs, and oddity of making new friends. All of that is standard when we think about the Commonwealth and what we already know about them, even in the TV adaptation. So nothing more to say there. The only thing we do know about what the survivors' jobs is gonna be, Yumiko is obviously gonna be some sort of a lawyer. We know that Magna is gonna be a waitress. I'm assuming the ones that are good fighters, like Daryl and the others, are gonna be soldiers, or those that help the soldiers to an extent. We know Carol is going to be at the bakery where Yumiko's brother Tommy was at, which is interesting. I mean, we all know that that's probably Carol putting on a front for the Commonwealth, much like what she did when she got to Alexandria. But anyway, with that said, let's jump into the next episode, season 11, episode 11. This one has no description, but it's called Rogue Element. Not exactly sure what this is referring to, but my gut feeling says this has to do with something related to Sebastian. Rogue Element, going on a rogue mission. I think there's a lot of different pieces of Sebastian's comic story that are reflected in this title, but I could obviously be wrong about that. Next episode, episode 12, is called All or Nothing. Me could make several assumptions, but there's just too little for us to use as far as solid clues to make any predictions about what this episode could be all about. Next episode, episode 13, is called Warlords. A very interesting title. Not exactly sure what this is related to, obviously Commonwealth, but not exactly sure how this relates. I mean, if we think about the comics, I can't really think of any situation in the comics at this point that matches this. The only thing I can think about is possibly a original story at this point being introduced that has to do with the bigger picture in the universe and Commonwealth and CRM and how they could be connected and all of that. Next episode, episode 14, is called The Rotten, obviously relating to the walkers, because some people call them the Rotten and things like that. So maybe they do come in contact with people who call the walkers rotten as well, or maybe that's what the Commonwealth calls them, or maybe this is something completely separate. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no titles and description for the next 2 episodes that end part 2 of the season, but just from all of these titles and descriptions, I think they're probably gonna be finished with the comic storyline at this point. And there's a very good chance that they're not gonna do any of the story that we saw past the time jump in the comic book. If they are, they're probably gonna do it in part 3 of season 11, not in part 2. And it seems like they're just gonna add a bit more original story to the Commonwealth storyline, but keep the key events in place aside from the time jump events. And there's a good chance that they're going to be bringing elements of the Civic Republic Military's connection to Commonwealth at this stage in the game so that they're set up for it, and they might return to it in part 3, which is possibly going to lead them to the other spin-off with Daryl and Carol. But that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go through in this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to share and smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.